Who should coach the Bombers? Ross Lyon, James Hird, Ken Hinkley, or another option? And you must specify who that other option is. David King's in the house. He's in fine form this morning. King, good morning.
Good morning, Cornsey. I keep wondering why we put Ken Hinkley in these polls.
His name keeps coming up, doesn't it?
Yeah, and he's over that discussion, I think. I don't know how many times he has to address this. Do you still... Hey?
Blame me, because I was...
Why do you keep putting him in?
I was looking for a Twitter poll suggestion. And there's not a plethora of names, is there, out there, of experienced coaches?
Well, let's change that to current coach, a current AFL coach in another role. If you're going for Ken Hinkley, why wouldn't you be going for Damien Hardwick? Essendon, man.
Feels a bit more... Ken Hinkley feels a bit more gettable, doesn't he? Because of the pressure that he's under at Port Adelaide versus, Richmond probably wouldn't let Hardwick go with a couple of years to go on his deal.
But who would you want of the two?
Oh, you would take Hardwick.
That's Essendon need a big scalp here. I'm not sure a first timer will appease the fans.
A big scalp. So who should that big scalp be? Now, Ross Lyon's name always comes up when there's a job vacancy. Now, if you read between the lines on what he said on Wednesday's Footy Classified, he feels gettable. Firstly, let's have a listen when the question was put to him.
I'm just cautious and wary. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I've worked hard to establish off-field, outside of AFL football, and not be a slave to AFL football. But he's saying that, like, Essendon, this incredible club historically, and I actually don't mind the purge. I hear the right noises come from David Barham, and I think they can go, regardless of me. We all want to see them get going. Well, it's not about what I want to do. I think if he heard me last night, he goes, I could mitigate your wariness and you being cautious. If he could mitigate that, and I've worked, he gave me great media advice at the end of 07, end of 08, that I carried through. So I certainly respect him, but I'm very cautious and wary.
His name was one of the first names I think you threw up when North were looking for a coach, Kingy. Do you feel the same about him with Essendon? Does he fit?
Yeah, 100% he does. He's a top liner. He's a star. Everyone says, but he hasn't won a flag, he hasn't done this. I mean, how many grand finals do you need to go to endorse your CV? I think he's challenged players to get the best out of themselves. He's set really hard and fast standards that he then hands on to the leadership group to maintain. He's not the dictator. He basically allows the leaders to lead, and then just puts this game plan. And sure, it's defensive. Sure, it is. It always has been. But when St Kilda had the capabilities to be a high-scoring team, if you look at those teams of 8, 9, 10, they were scoring heavily right throughout those seasons, and maybe they clamped up through the final series. Absolutely, they probably did. The last 2 or 3 home and away games, but I think one of those years they were averaging 100 points right up until the last fortnight of the home and away season. So that he can score. If he wants to set the game up to score, he'll do that. So I don't understand the negativity around Ross, and I think Essendon need Ross right now more than any other person.
Wow. 1300 736 736. There's not that many experienced coaches out there, and they've said that they want an experienced coach. So unless you can poach someone from another club, and it feels really late to be doing that when there's a review still to be undertaken, he's the one that feels like the right fit at the moment. But some Bombers fans don't want to see that, and there's still the looming factor of James Hird in the background there as well. Which
where
clearly,
do you sit with that? I just wanted to ask.
I'm really would love to see Ross get the job there. I have no issue with that. I'm just trying to think of the other names that are viable for the Bombers at the moment. There would be the Leon Cameron types. Could you convince Nathan Buckley, even though he said repeatedly that he doesn't want to coach? Justin Lepich would be a person that I'd absolutely have a chat to. He's been there and done that, and you could argue that he's an experienced coach with the record that he's got.
So all right, so strip it back. Okay, so Essendon say, we're interested in Ross. Would you be comfortable with Ross not going through a process and being given the job by the Bombers?
I'd be comfortable with a similar Alistair Clarkson process where it's not an official sit down and have a look at a PowerPoint presentation, but it's lengthy chats about your footy philosophy, where you see the list, where you see the club. So you'd want some sort of process. It's not just, right, the job's yours. You'd want to know exactly where his head's at, how much footy has he watched in the last 2 years, where does he see the list, what are his concerns. So I would call that some sort of process, but not your traditional process that, say, an Adam Kingsley has been through.
Had a chat with Lee Matthews years ago. Got stuck at an airport with Lee. Tony Lennon was there, and we were just sitting there, and he was actually hanging around in Western Australia to go and visit Scott Burns, I think, for one of the jobs. It might have even been the Collingwood job way back when. And I asked him, I said, Lee, what are the things that when you're holding these sort of coaching discussions with potential candidates, what are you hoping to hear? Well, they tell you a lot of things. He said, look, they all come in and say, we're going to play a contested brand of footy, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And he said, the one thing that annoyed him at the time is they come in and talk about the list. He says they don't even know these players as people. How do you know what you can get out of A, B and C or D, E and F? If they've got challenges, do they need an arm around? Do they need a kick up the bum? What do they actually need? And I thought that's a great call. So I'm not as sold on Ross walking in knowing the list. Know that it's got the capability to be clearly better than what it is. Yep. He's seen enough footy over the last. He's a footy viewer, footy watcher. He could tell you what he could do with Essendon immediately to correct them for at least another 4 to 5 wins, like that.
Yeah. So what would the expectation be? So another 4 to 5 wins that has you, finishing 6, 5 or 6, and winning potentially a final, which they haven't done. That would be your expectation for the Bombers? Like they're capable of that?
Yeah, they've got a very good. I think they've got a very good list, and this is why I don't understand the Dodoro feedback. Been through it. I've studied the 2 years they were left out of the draft. It's made them play a little bit of catch up from that point forward. So they've had to give up a little bit more to get Dylan Shield and Devon Smith and those guys because they just needed them. So, no, I think this list is capable of at least winning 13 to 14 games.
But let's open up the phone lines. We'll go to Greg. He's got a suggestion of who should coach the Bombers next year. Greg, welcome to you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. A bloke with a little bit of experience. He didn't do all that badly, I don't think, and he's one of Essendon's favourite sons. Just have a bit of a talk to Harvey. Mark Harvey.
Mark Harvey. Well, it didn't end well at Freo. I just can vaguely remember that. Yeah. Here we are, Fremantle. So he had a 41% win-loss record. 4 wins, 6 wins, 6 wins, 13 wins, 9, and then basically over.
Getting the legends back, there is the temptation to do that. But I wouldn't think he'd be at the top of the tree. He came in the Sunday Footy Show the other day. He's terrific company, great sense of humour, but I don't think he'll be putting his hand up for the Essendon job, Greg. But thanks for your thoughts and your suggestion. Ray is on the line. You want to speak about crowds this year, Ray? Your thoughts?
Good morning, gentlemen. Just a quick one. I want to talk about the live crowds. This is the elephant in the room. Nobody wants to talk about, even the media. You watched it on TV. You can see the last 4 weeks. Doesn't matter who's playing outside of, say, Collingwood and the big teams. Crowds, it looks like a ghost town. It's becoming more like an NRL. Thursday nights, and Gil McLachlan are to blame. The more Thursday night games you got this year, and every year for the last 4 years, on one Sunday, we had no live game played in Melbourne and no game on free-to-air TV on the biggest game in Australia in the middle of the biggest season. It is an absolute disgrace because the AFL and Gil have this in their mindset that Channel 7 and Foxtel are our friends. They are not our friends. We've got to get rid of this crap Thursday night business and get back to Friday night, Saturday and all day Sunday. That's where the footy people will go to the crowds. It's an absolute disgrace.
That's a volcano from Ray.
Oh, Ray, strong, Ray. Very strong.
Good, strong feedback.
We're your friends at Fox. We're everyone's friends.
Crowds have been building. It was massive on Sunday. I know I was at the Showdown. There was 50,000 there. There was a big crowd at the Gabba for that Melbourne game. I think the crowds have been building and people are starting to enjoy going back to the footy. Hey, a lot of people want to have their say, so we'll get to that. Billy wants to have his say. We've got Barney on the line. But before we do that, we've got to get to our good friends at Buddybet.
Buddybet. Download the Buddybet app now and start betting against your buddies. Gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-858-858.
Yeah, I'm in all sorts here. You can download the Buddybet app and have a good, fun, friendly-natured bet with your friends at the Buddybet app. Very social, but it also keeps your mates accountable. Kingy's taking the lead. You've got the last two. So you were nearest to the pin with the Clarkson announcement. I said Tuesday, you said Thursday. The ledger is now at 8-5. Have you got anything for me this weekend that we can bet on?
No, I just think we have a weekend off.
Just a spell.
I was going to go with your Saturday night activities, but I just don't want to put any pressure on you because I think the nerves will get hold of you.
Yeah, I think you're right. So we'll just save this up. We'll have
Yeah.
something big for you on the eve of the finals next week. Buddybet. Download the Buddybet app now and start betting against your buddies. Gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-858-858. We'll be back with your calls on the other side of this.